Digital Photo App Chapter 2: How Your Digital Camera Works. Digital cameras come in many shapes and sizes. There are three primary types: point and shoot, electronic viewfinder, and digital SLR, single lens reflex. They differ widely in sensor size, resolution, image detail, color quality, and features. Each has advantages and disadvantages. The simplest of these three major designs is the point and shoot. They are usually the smallest and most portable, have a fixed zoom lens, and may have other features such as low-resolution video or panorama capability. They are also usually the least costly. Some disadvantages of these are very small sensor size, which limits shallow depth of field capability. Most are not capable of creating shallow depth of field. Color quality and detail are also affected by the small sensor size. They also tend to create a lot of digital noise in the image at higher than base ISO settings. The next level up are the electronic viewfinder cameras, some of which have flip-out LCD viewfinders useful for low-angle and video shooting. They usually have some additional features such as higher resolution, RAW file capture, we'll get to that in a moment, HD video, and in some models, interchangeable lenses. Disadvantages are higher cost, limited prosumer-level features, and non-through-the-lens viewing. At the highest level is the DSLR, or Digital Single Lens Reflex. These provide direct through-the-lens viewing for accurate composition, a wide variety of interchangeable lenses and accessories, RAW capture, high resolution, better color quality, and some even have full HD video. They are usually the most bulky and expensive of all these cameras. Each has its place, and many professional photographers also carry a point-and-shoot for personal photos. Even today's smartphones contain cameras with quality optics and increasing resolution. These are the most portable of all, and certainly the iPhone is among the best for this purpose. So how do these cameras differ from film cameras? First and foremost is the image capture medium. In film cameras, light-sensitive silver compounds and dyes are exposed and recorded by the film, which is then chemically processed to reveal the latent image captured during exposure. In a digital camera, the film is replaced by an image sensor. This image sensor may be a CCD, which stands for Charge Coupled Device, or increasingly CMOS, for Complementary Metal Oxide Semiconductor. Both work electronically. Don't worry, you won't be tested on those names. The sensor is made up of photosites, which receives the light passing through small red, green, or blue filters over the individual sites, which are seen as pixels, or picture elements. The resolution of a camera is measured in megapixels, which stands for millions of pixels. The higher the pixel count, the higher the resolution, the more fine detail is rendered at high degrees of enlargement. Light, like sound, is made up of waves. Einstein proved it's also a particle, but for our purposes, the wave characteristic is what we use most in photography. These waves are part of the analog world we see and hear. The digital camera, however, needs to convert that analog continuous tone information into a discrete binary digital signal to record the image. This is achieved by your camera's onboard analog to digital converter and its mini computer processor. Those little filters over each pixel are arrayed in a particular pattern known as the Bayer mosaic. This pattern has limitations, however, since if green light strikes a red pixel, for example, the resulting color image would appear to have a small block of stray color known as color noise. To combat this problem, your camera's onboard computer analyzes the surrounding pixels using a particular mathematical estimating strategy known as an interpolation algorithm to decide how to render the color on that pixel. Depending on the number, power, and quality of this processor and algorithm, your image will either display very accurate color or be distorted by this limitation. Again, the higher quality cameras, such as the DSLR, usually have better algorithms and processors on board. You get what you pay for, to some extent. All this happens in your camera at the instant of exposure, and the image is written to a memory card. Memory cards come in several standard sizes of varying capacity. This capacity is measured in megabytes or even gigabytes. The most robust of these are the CF cards, which have recessed contacts. They are also the most expensive. Next is the less expensive and smaller SD card, or even the mini SD card. Both have exposed metal contacts that can be bent or broken, so greater care must be taken in handling. These are by far the most widely used, however, due to less cost to produce, and their small size allows use in very compact cameras. Sony has the proprietary memory stick, which generally only works in their brand of cameras. So basically, when you allow light to strike the sensor through exposure, you are converting light waves into ones and zeros, which is all your camera's computer understands. This is known as binary code. It's used because all computers are essentially arrays of electrical switches which can be either on or off, nothing in between. The series of ones and zeros tells the computer to turn on or off its millions of tiny switches in a particular order, thus allowing it to compute the math required. The rate at which this data is sampled is known as resolution. The more samples, the more accurate the information, the greater the detail is rendered. Since light is a wave, it is akin to trying to use a bar chart to represent a curve. The closer the bars need to be to approximate that curved line. This data is recorded in 256 levels of tone for a JPEG image file. JPEG is a highly compressed format used by all these types of cameras, especially the point-and-shoot type. This is because it takes up less storage space and requires less image processing power, as it contains only 8 bits per color channel, red, green, and blue. Bits are measurements that describe the tonal levels in a digital photo. A 1-bit image would only represent either total black or total white pixels, no grayscale middle tones. 8 bits represents those 256 levels of gray from black to white, as I mentioned. There are 8 bits of information for each color channel, red, green, blue, which together add up to 24-bit image. The RAW file format, found in higher-priced cameras, mostly DSLRs, contains up to 4,096 levels of tone, or 16 bits per channel capture. You can see from that significantly larger number that 16 bits is way more than double that of 8-bit capture. Almost 20 times as much information. Full color would be 48-bit color. While this is a much larger file size, the additional information allows for greater adjustment in image manipulation such as enlargement, color correction, and more. JPEGs are 8 bits per channel and are processed by the camera's computer according to options set by the user in the camera's menus. This setting is thus baked in to the file that is saved. Conversely, a RAW capture is not processed by the camera. It is literally the maximum raw data recorded by the sensor at its maximum quality level. All image processing and adjustment occurs in software controlled by the user. Since every RAW file is proprietary to both make and model of the camera, there are choices to be made when selecting software to process these images. The camera manufacturers will provide you with their own software, such as Canon's Digital Photo Professional or Nikon Capture NX. Some of it is well implemented, some not. They are camera manufacturers, after all, not software companies. So, many photographers choose aftermarket software for their image editing in this case. Adobe Photoshop is the most well-known. Adobe Lightroom and Apple's Aperture are other options that also contain image cataloging capabilities. In each case, since the RAW file is proprietary as I mentioned, these companies must reverse engineer the RAW files so they can be read by their software. The newer the camera you have, the more likely you will need the latest update to read it. In an attempt to future-proof this issue, Adobe has introduced the DNG format, which is intended to be a universal file format easily read by both current and future compatible software. As yet, it has not achieved fully universal status, but the hope is that it soon will. For those unfortunate enough to own an older digital camera with an outdated RAW file type, you have only 2 choices for reading those files. Save your old computer and software to open them, or convert to the DNG using Adobe's free DNG converter, Photoshop, or Lightroom. So while RAW capture provides the most control and flexibility in image processing, JPEG is universal and will likely remain so for the foreseeable future. Ideally, you shoot in RAW plus JPEG mode at the highest quality to capture both file types for optimum safety. We will discuss this in greater detail in the next chapter, Image Transfer and Workflow.